I was being brought to set in a wheelchair. Like, I couldn't walk that far. So I had to tell everybody because I needed help. You know, I needed someone to help me stand.
Ed O'Neill is not who everyone thinks he is, and Christina Applegate has just confirmed this. After nearly 4 decades of silence, the actress who played Kelly Bundy has finally opened up about what really happened between her and her on-screen father. Here, she shares hidden accounts that even diehard fans had zero chance of guessing. Will what she exposed about Ed ruin their chances of a TV reunion, or will it see the fans loving him in a new light? Join us as we narrate the stories of these two characters from America's favorite dysfunctional TV family. Bonds in a Closet. Christina was one of those performers whose talent for acting was discovered at a relatively young age. 1987 was the first time she walked onto the set of Married with Children at just 15 years of age. Here, she was a teenager stepping into one of the most controversial sitcoms in television history. The show was edgy, provocative, and pushed every boundary that network television allowed at the time. And right in the middle of all those poles and undertones was a young girl who had just her feet to help her stand in the rocky terrains of Hollywood. The show involved Al Bundy, a shoe salesman, his lazy wife Peggy, his popular but dumb daughter Kelly, and his smart yet unpopular son, Bud, whose everyday struggles to deal with life often led to hilarious situations. Al Bundy was played by Ed O'Neill through the 11 seasons in which the show ran. His character was seen as the cynical, misanthropic patriarch of the Bundy family. He is a former high school football star who peaked in 1966 and has since fallen way off the mark. His defining trait in the series is his obsession with his glory days at Polk High. That was for his character anyway. What most people never realized is that Ed O'Neill took on a role far more important than playing Al Bundy. Here, his defining trait was centered around something else: being a protector for Christina. He became her mentor. In many ways, he became the father figure she needed to hold in the rocky streets of Hollywood. A much-needed figure during one of the most vulnerable times in her life. Ed O'Neill was in his early 40s when the show started. At this age, he had already been through the ups and downs of Hollywood. He understood the ropes and what this industry could do to young people, especially young women who were suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Christina was playing Kelly Bundy, a character who was written as a teenage sex symbol. The jokes made about Kelly in the fandom were often aggressive, and the outfits that she was made to wear were revealing. These were all in line to match the popular IT girl persona her character had. The attention from fans and media could have easily gotten to her head. This spotlight could have easily led to dark places, but Ed stepped in and made sure that never happened. In interviews, Christina has talked about how Ed would shield her from certain conversations on set. Step in when things get too adult-like. Make sure that even though the show was pushing boundaries, the actual environment around Christina remained safe and professional. This was not something he was required to do. This was not part of his job description. This was Ed O'Neill choosing to be a genuinely good human being. Christina spent 11 years on that set. She went from being 15 to 26 during the show's run. Those are the years when a person develops their entire identity. The years that shape who one becomes as an adult. And Christina has admitted that in the absence of this guiding bond, during those years, the spotlight would have negatively changed the fundamentals guiding who she is today. Ed would pull Christina aside between takes to check on her, position himself near her during difficult scenes. He would quietly redirect her conversations with other cast members when they started heading in inappropriate directions. Ed would drive Christina home after late-night shoots because he did not want her traveling alone, would call her mother to reassure her that her daughter was being looked after. He would stand up to producers who wanted to push Christina into uncomfortable situations. What made their connection even more remarkable is how it evolved. In the early years, it was clearly a mentor-student relationship, but later on, it turned into something else, especially with the ending of the show. Tender-isms involving bonds. In the media, the make or break of bonds like this is often heavily dependent on the strength of the parties involved when fending off external attacks. But at this point, she was just 17, and there was almost nothing she could do when an attack was unleashed against her, Ed, and the whole show itself. This event happened in 1989 and threatened to destroy Married with Children completely. It threatened to separate her and Ed, the pillar she was resting on. A woman named Terry Racolta from Michigan watched the Her Cups Runneth Over episode from Season 3 of the series and was so outraged that she launched a full-scale boycott campaign against the show. Racolta's irritation came from the bigot and sexual undertones she and her children came across while watching that episode. She contacted major advertisers, wrote letters, and appeared on news programs. She was determined to get Married with Children canceled. And her campaign worked, at least at first. Coca-Cola pulled their advertising off the series, McDonald's withdrew their support, and then dozens of other major companies followed. The network was panicking. Executives were having emergency meetings. Suddenly, there were conversations about ending the show right then and there. The situation felt hopeless. For Christina, this was terrifying. She was 17 years old. This show was the genesis of her entire career. This was everything she had worked for. And suddenly, it looked like it could all disappear because one woman in Michigan decided she did not like what she saw on television. The uncertainty was overwhelming for someone so young, but Ed O'Neill stepped in again and refused to let fear take over. In this crisis, Ed personally took it upon himself to calm the younger cast members. He sat down with Christina and David Faustino, who played her brother Bud, and told them that no matter what happened, they had already created something special. He told them that the show might either survive or it might not, but either way, they should be proud of what they had accomplished together. He didn't stop there. Instead, he went ahead and contacted the press himself. He gave interviews defending the show, but more importantly, defending the young people who worked on it. He made sure that in every conversation about the controversy, someone was speaking up for his TV kids. He refused to let them become collateral damage in a culture war. In the end, he won, and the boycott backfired in spectacular fashion. All the negative attention made people curious about this show they had never watched. Ratings actually went up, way more than usual. The publicity that was supposed to destroy Married with Children ended up making it more popular than ever before. It became one of the most ironic turns in television history. But surviving this crisis would prove to be just practice for what Christina and Ed would face decades later at the end of the show. An event in which the aftermath felt like a greater hurdle to overcome than any billion-dollar lawsuit. The unfinished ending. When Married with Children ended in 1997, it did not end the way anyone expected. People expected some big final episode, a grand finale, and there was none. There was no emotional goodbye episode, no closure for the characters or for the actors who had played them for over a decade. The show was simply canceled, and that was that. One day, they were filming new episodes, and the next day, they were not. Christina spoke about how strange that period was. One day, she had this entire family around her, a routine, a place to go every morning. And then suddenly, it's all gone. She had people who knew her better than almost anyone else in her life. And then, the next day, all of that just stops. The set gets torn down. Everyone goes their separate ways. The family you spent your formative teen years with suddenly scatters to the winds. The ending left a void that wasn't prepared for, a hole she had no idea how to cover. Especially the one left by Ed after 11 years. They had worked together almost every single day, had celebrated birthdays together, watched each other grow and change, and had created hundreds of episodes of television that would go on to influence countless other shows. And then, suddenly, it was over. Like nothing, it didn't feel real. It felt as hard as it was unreal. But what Christina has revealed is that she and Ed never truly separated. Even after the show ended, they maintained their connection. They would call each other, meet for meals. Ed would check in on her career, offering advice and support when she asked for it, but still did the same even when she did not. The TV father and daughter relationship had become something very real. Christina went on to have a remarkable career after Married with Children. She appeared in films like The Sweetest Thing and Anchorman. She starred in other television shows like Samantha Who and Dead to Me. She won awards and earned critical acclaim. And through all of it, Ed was watching. He was proud of her in the way a father is proud of his daughter. Ed also found tremendous success after the show. He went on to star in Modern Family, one of the most beloved sitcoms of its era. He won multiple awards. He became even more famous than he had been as Al Bundy. In interviews, when people would ask him about his career highlights with other actors, he would often bring up Christina. He would talk about watching her become the woman she is today, and place her above performers like Al Pacino, Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, Christopher Walken, Ellen DeGeneres, and Mike Myers, in terms of his favorite he had worked with. The lack of a proper ending to Married with Children still haunted both of them over the years. Every few years, the topic would come up again. Fans would petition for it. Networks would express interest, but for various reasons, it never happened. Until recently, a clear and tragic reason came up. A reason that changed everything. Something that made the possibility of a traditional reunion almost impossible. Sclerosis is no cinephile. On the 10th of August, 2021, Christina Applegate posted something on social media that stopped the world in its tracks. She announced that she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The disease had been discovered a few months earlier, while she was filming the final season of her Netflix show, Dead to Me. And just like that, everything changed. Nothing would ever be the same. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic disease that affects the central nervous system. It can cause problems with mobility, balance, vision, and cognitive function. While it has no cure, the symptoms can be managed. For Christina, this diagnosis meant that her entire life had to be restructured from the ground up. She now uses a cane to walk. She has talked openly about experiencing cognitive fog that makes certain tasks difficult. She has had to accept that her body has changed in ways she would never have anticipated. The diagnosis was as physical as it was emotional. Christina has been honest about the grief she has experienced, grief for the life she thought she would have, the future she had planned, and for the version of herself that existed before the diagnosis. She has had to mourn while still living, which is one of the hardest things any person could do. Where most colleagues and friends would just offer a few words and maybe make a few social media posts, Ed did all this and still made it a point to show up and comfort her. Immediately, he found out about her illness. He reached out. He made sure Christina knew that he was there for her. Her TV father was still being a real one, even years after their show. And this constant extra hand he offered ended up not being just for show. It somehow led to her being able to find her own feet again, despite the sclerosis. Of Hollywood walks, claps, and cries. In November 2022, Christina Applegate finally made her first major public appearance since revealing her MS diagnosis. She surprisingly attended a show where she was meant to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. For someone dealing with a chronic illness that affects mobility and energy, just showing up to an event like this required tremendous courage. Many people in her situation would have chosen to stay home and not risk the embarrassment or pain. Christina refused to succumb to the fear of either. She arrived at the event using a cane. Her movements were slower than they used to be, but what mattered the most was that she was present and surrounded by people who loved her. The crowd that gathered was enormous. Fans had traveled from all over to witness this moment. The ceremony was emotional from the very beginning. But what Christina said during her speech left everyone in tears. She talked about her diagnosis openly and about the fear and uncertainty she had faced. She talked about what it meant to have people in her life who had shown up for her when things got hard. And she talked about the early days of her career, about married with children, and about the people who had helped shape her into the person she had become. 2 months later came another moment that would be seared into the memories of everyone who witnessed it. Christina Applegate appeared at the Emmy Awards in January 2023. She walked onto that stage with her cane, and the audience did something spontaneous and overwhelming. They stood up. This time, every single person in that room rose to their feet and kept applauding. The standing ovation lasted nearly a full minute, which in television time feels like an eternity. There, that day, they probably set a Guinness World Record for applause offered. Christina stood there bathed in emotion as wave after wave of support washed over her. The applause seemed like it would never end. In her typical fashion, she used humor to cope with the overwhelming emotion of the moment. The audience laughed through their happy tears at her jokes. Christina spoke about how that night reaffirmed her connections to the entertainment community. People she had worked with decades ago came up to her throughout the evening. Old friends reached out, and former castmates checked in. That night, Ed O'Neill was among those who made sure Christina knew she was loved. He was still looking out for her. He was still making sure she was okay. Again, the TV father was still being a real one. So far, these stories have highlighted how pseudo-Ed's on-screen persona was, but what was he really like on set when acting? What did she say about how he managed to fool everybody so easily? Stories about lights, camera, action. According to Christina, Married with Children was not as strictly scripted as many other sitcoms of its era. The cast were given freedom to play with their lines and to try different things to see what worked. This created an atmosphere of creative experimentation that led to some of the show's most iconic moments. According to her, Ed was particularly skilled at improvisation. His background in theater had given him the tools to think on his feet and respond in the moment. He was able to find humor in unexpected places. And he used those skills not just for the show, but to help his younger castmates learn the craft. He was a teacher as much as he was a performer. Christina talked about Ed teaching her how to be spontaneous on camera. He would throw her curveballs during scenes, forcing her to react authentically. He would change his line delivery to see how she would adjust. According to her, these felt like hidden lessons to make her better. She felt he was investing in her future as an actress. Christina also revealed details about the running gags on the show and how they developed organically over time. Al Bundy's obsession with his high school football glory, Peggy's absolute refusal to cook or clean, Kelly's famous intelligence jokes. All the details in these bits were not all written from the start. Many of them emerged from the chemistry between the actors. Chemistry kick-started by Ed's mannerisms, and those relationships have endured far longer than the show itself. They continue to this day. Currently, Christina has started a podcast called Messy with Jamie Lynn Sigler, another actress who also lives with multiple sclerosis. The podcast has given Christina a platform to share her thoughts and experiences in a format that accommodates her health needs. In a segment where she invited Ed, they were both urged to answer some frequently asked questions. Here, the media dished out the same repetitive questions, and Ed still gave the same answer. He says that every time they get together, he is reminded of how special their chemistry still is. The love between them has not faded with time. If anything, it has grown stronger. And that despite her illness, producers can forget plans for a prequel if his precious daughter is not involved. And that was it. That was what he was truly like. Nothing like the misanthrope character he played on screen. He cared, and sometimes he overcared. And that was exactly his most lovable trait. What do you think about the incredible bond between Christina and Ed? Do you think it would be wise to do a sequel to the series despite Christina's health concerns? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.